I found this incredible 8-minute interview with Brad Jacobs, who has built multiple billion-dollar businesses through acquisitions. The host is Shane Parrish from the Knowledge Project. By the way, he's got a great channel. You should hit it. So here's the 8-minute interview. Take a watch.
But when you look at the numbers, the real growth has been through M&A, through acquisitions. What's been my secrets on acquisitions? I'll try to be concise because I did an hour-and-a-half podcast with McKinsey a couple of years ago with Andy West. That was the only question. He asked one question and I babbled on for an hour and a half. It's still a big, people still watch that podcast because I really told everything about it. Here's the gist. The gist is you first have to select an industry. You can't just do M&A. So I spent the last year going around studying dozens of industries, looking at hundreds and hundreds of acquisition opportunities, mostly with Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and some other Sequoia and some friends, figuring out, could I apply my playbook to this industry? Is the industry big enough? Is the industry fragmented enough? Is there M&A to do? Is bigger better? That's not always the case. Are the economies of scale? Do you have a competitive advantage by being bigger? Is there a way to apply technology? Because my companies have always been tech forward to the industry because the industry is a little sleepy on technology. Is the way I run a business, the way I do the intake of people and the culture and the way we interact with each other and so forth, is that something that'll work in this industry, is applied to this industry? Is it's something related to something I know about? Industrial services, for example. Most of my companies since 1989 have been industrial services. And I looked at many, many different industries and I settled on the one that checked every single box, which was building products distribution. And the name of my company is going to be QXO. And M&A will be a big, big component of what we do. There's $800 billion of distributors in Western Europe and in North America, which is where I want to plant my flag. I want to build a company that's, call it $50 billion. I can do that. If there's an $800 billion size, I can take 6% of that through acquisition and through organic growth. I can get to $50 billion. There's many other industries that are nice, but I'm not going to be able to get to $50 billion. I want to get to $50 billion. So this industry, there's a clear path of how I can do that. Now, I can't just buy, and there's roughly about 7,000 distributors here in the United States. There's about almost twice that amount in Western Europe. So roughly about 20,000 distributors. You've got to be very careful about who you buy. There has to be a reason why you're buying that company. There has to be a compelling strategic reason of why you're buying that company. What makes sense for that? Why is that good for customers? Why is that going to make our business a better business? Why does that fit with the other things that we've already bought and put together? How's it going to integrate well? I like to look at the multiples that I pay for an acquisition. The price that I pay for an acquisition is very, very important because when I look at the levers of how we create shareholder value, what contributes to that? The biggest lever, the biggest component is the differential between what I raise capital at due to my relationships with mostly institutional investors and because of the track record, and what I can deploy that at on doing acquisitions. The second biggest lever is how much can I improve the businesses that I buy? There's many, many levers, but those are the two biggest levers. So I pay close, when I've studied all these different industries, I've studied historical acquisition multiples. And one of the reasons I like building products distribution is I believe that I'll be able to buy companies at lower multiples of their profit than I'll be able to raise capital at. And that's going to be that disagio, that spread, that difference, that delta is going to create value, boom, just right away, right from the first day. Now, you asked about integration. Integration is extremely important. Anybody can buy a company. It's not that hard. You send a wire, you sign a document, it's a few dozen pages, the lawyers have gone over it, and you wire the money. And you own it. So that's not the hard part. The hard part is after you've selected the right industry, after you've selected the right companies within that industry to buy, after you've had discipline so that you pay the right price for all those, then you have to integrate them. I've never run companies that have like hundreds of different companies all running separately with different names and different systems and different back offices. And there is some level of decentralization where you need to be closer to the customer, but I have a very strong appetite for standardization of the ERP system, that you close the books with. So you close the books promptly right after the close of the month. And then you can have standardized dashboards. So all the managers have the same format of the numbers they're looking at, the KPIs, and they see them graphically, very easy to understand. I like to see so they can benchmark every location to every other location, every district to other districts, every region to other regions. And for that, you need standardization. I like to have a very standardized HRIS, human resources system, where all the people in the organization, and we'll build this company up, we'll have hundreds of thousands of employees. I need to have a standardized data system for all of our employees. Everyone's on for 401k, it's the same exact way of doing it. All the benefits are the same. All the performance appraisals are the same. Compensation I can see right away. I need to have transparency to the information I need to have the organization charts very accessible right away. And every time we do an acquisition, I need to pull that information up right away while we're studying it quickly so we have a competitive advantage against other bidders to see what would the synergies be. So I need standardized HR technology throughout everything. I need a standardized CRM, customer relationship management system, like Salesforce.com or there's several others as well. And for that, to be able to make sure we're looking at customers, the attractiveness of those customers, the profitability of those customers, the size of their spend, so therefore the potential of those customers going forward, all the interactions we've had with those customers. I need to see that in a standardized way all across the globe, everywhere, in every country we're functioning in. So I need to standardize technology for customer relationship, for sales management. So I need a standardized internal social media. I happen to I've used Workplace by Facebook. It's not the only one, but I like that one really well. It's nice and the interface is really, really good. So I like to have everyone on the same one because I like to have one company with one culture where everybody can ping each other. I don't want to have these silos of companies. Like sometimes you see these companies roll up many different companies, but it's all a mishmash. It's all separate. I don't like that at all. You see a lot of these middle market private equity firms do that. They roll up these small companies. They're doing $5, $10, $20 million EBITDA each, and they just buy a bunch of them, and now they're up to 100 million, 200 million EBITDA, and they just get a bigger multiple because they're bigger. But it's a mess. Whoever buys those companies, there's a lot of work to be done. You've got to now standardize everything and integrate everything, and opportunity to improve them, but also a lot of cost and time to fix all that stuff up. So I integrate from the moment that we agree to buy a company. We're starting the integration process. And the day we close the acquisition, gazam, we're in there and we're standardizing everything as much as we possibly can. And we're communicating quite a bit. A big part of the success for M&A is forming the relationship with people and making sure we get off on the right foot and making sure that we don't lose the great talent and making sure at the same time, we're identifying the weak players and gracefully and generously exiting them. So there's a lot of different components to M&A. I'm summarizing a lot of different facts. Each one of those things, we could talk for an hour just on that block. But those are the kinds of things that go through my mind in my approach to M&A.